anybody that's watching this post live session. I'm going to wait for a couple people to come on and then I'll get started. See, we have one viewer. Go ahead and come on and just say hello when you start watching. Today we're talking about hazards and safety concerns of paranormal investigation. Happy Tuesday. Hi, Bobby Sue. How's the weather out there in West Virginia? It's pretty cloudy here. I think we might get another storm. Oh, thank you. Yeah, feel free to share. Come on and say hello. Make comments, ask questions throughout the whole thing. This is not just about me talking to you guys. It's about discussion and debate. I just waiting for a big storm. Oh, you have one coming? See, it's not too hot here. I think it might be in the 80s, but it's not so bad. How's everybody else out there tonight? Today I'm sporting my Ouija shirt. Kind of something that I guess we'll talk about. Some of the games and things people play. Ugh. Oh, the dogs won't even stay out. I'm good. I'm very good. It's a good night. It's Tuesday. School is out. So all of my children are always home. Oh, thanks. Hey, Taylor. This is the first time that you've been with us live, or with me, I should say. So I'm the only one. But tonight we're talking about hazards and safety concerns and the paranormal investigation in the field, just kind of general, if you're into the paranormal, the concerns that you would have. And like I said, if you have any questions, comments, go ahead and feel free to discuss in the comment section and share this video. That's great. We like shares. You know, Facebook has seriously decreased their all the community page, you know, presence on Facebook, and it's just stupid. It's like half the time, you know, we have over 10,000 followers, but we may have like 70 people see a post, and it's just, it's crazy. Awesome. Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. We have about an hour that we'll go through this. And again, go ahead and comment or, you know, discuss what I'm talking about throughout the time. And I'll try to stop and answer any questions that I can. So, you know, a lot of people talk about the hazards of paranormal investigation. And I'm going to start with more of a, you know, while you're investigating standpoint, because a lot of people ask me about, you know, things that they should search for, things that they should know before they go out to investigate. It should all be part of the process with a case to know any type of hazards or safety concerns for you or your team. And then, you know, especially if you're taking people that maybe you don't know out, physically, I would say, do a walkthrough and do some research of the area. To kind of expand on that, doing a walkthrough lets you know if the property is any type of disrepair. So say if you're going to an abandoned building, which obviously we would say make sure that you get permission. Don't trespass in places that you're not supposed to be in. It's like one of our #1 rules. Just make sure that it's actually easily accessible without harming yourself or others. You know, floors caving in, or there's snakes, spiders, which there's spiders everywhere. So just kind of getting an idea of how the property or location is, it is, so that you can make a good judgment before you actually get there. Like low ceilings is another thing. If you're going to a location that has very, very low doorways or ceilings, or, you know, anything that you need to mark for your very tall investigators with your team, always let them know. We did have an investigator one time go into a basement, and he had totally forgotten that the doorway was so low. He was, I think, over 6 feet tall, so he hit his head and rang his bell pretty good. It wasn't funny at first. I mean, he was fine right at first, but it come to find out he had a concussion. So no, it's not. After all, it's not really funny when you go into a location you don't remember or realize that it's there. So really familiarize yourself with a location so that you're not hurting yourself in that way. Air quality in a location. Some people are allergic to molds, and you'll find a lot of places that are older are going to have those types of issues. Molds, chemicals, or asbestos, things that, you know, dust even, things that could really affect somebody's breathing, that could last longer than just that night while they're investigating. So knowing this stuff and letting your team know beforehand is really important. You know, these physical hazards are very important for anybody. I mean, you don't want to go to a location and have permanent effects from just a one night in a place that, you know, doesn't have activity. So know what you're doing. One of the other ones is dangerous areas. And this could be two different things. Train tracks, for example. There was an article a couple years ago, I believe, of some ghost hunters doing some sessions near railroad tracks, and I believe there were more than one of these. One, I believe, one of the kids was hit by the train and killed. Another one, I think they fell off of one of those really tall bridges, railroad bridges, and died from it. So, you know, just don't investigate on railroad tracks. A, it's illegal, and B, you can really hurt yourself because you never know what kinds of things are going to be out there. They don't go out and do, you know, adopt a railroad tracks to clean them up. The other flip side of dangerous areas are places where there's criminal activity. One good example, you know, we would always want to go down and check out Henryton Sanatorium down near Marriottsville, Maryland, and we knew that the place actually had criminal activity, so it was not really something that we felt comfortable with. A, you know, you can't get permission to really be there, and B, you don't know who you're going to encounter. You know, there's people there that they don't really care who you are. If they're doing something illegal, they may shoot and ask questions later. Sorry about my crazy hair. So, you know, if you have any other things that you think like physical could be harmful to you, nothing to do with, you know, mental or emotional, but anything physical that could have an impact on you or your investigators, feel free to post in the comments. Those were just a few that I could think of. You know, when we go to a location, you know, we want to see how, obviously, if it's a private residence, we're going to see how the house is actually, what type of order it's in. So, you know, maybe it's not clean, or maybe it's, you know, they have a little bit of the radon in the basement. So knowing all that stuff is a really great idea. And, you know, the EMF sensitivity, if you have a sensitivity to that, that's more of the health concern that I would put down. But those are the physical concerns that, you know, you go in fine and you could actually get harmed. Psychologically, now this to me is for the people who aren't really seasoned investigators. Could be seasoned investigators too. If you've been out there and you've investigated for years, maybe you've never experienced anything. Hi, Sarah. I would say that, you know, if you are planning on doing a paranormal investigation or ghost hunting, you really have to be prepared mentally to know what kind of impacts going out there and doing these things can have on you. If you scare easily, you know, it's possible you could have a panic attack. You could have nightmares from things that you experience. You can exhibit depression, which is also kind of included in some of the health concerns, but depression, I've seen a lot of people in the paranormal become obsessed with it and really can't, deviate their life away from it. Another one that a lot of people probably don't know what the term is, a faulty causation. Sometimes you're out there investigating and something specific happens, and maybe it scares you. Maybe it has an impact on you mentally, and you associate whatever happens with bad things in your life. So it kind of instills a fear in you when you're investigating, and even in everyday life, because you expect that to happen over and over again. So just think of it as, if you experience something, say, in your home, and you kind of want to keep it developing, you really want to see what happens in your home, and then, something happens, and it really scares you, so I'm not going to do that again because that'll happen again. You have to understand that with the paranormal, you run the risk of having this stuff happen to you more than just on an investigation. Once you have it happen to you out there, it just continues to happen in the rest of your life. So if you have anything else psychologically you would think that possibly could affect people, like I said, be prepared mentally for anything that could happen while you're investigating, while you're ghost hunting, or even, after a couple years, maybe something might happen to you outside of that. Health concerns. Now, these aren't really like health concerns that are caused by the paranormal. It could be things like equipment that you use, just situations that you may find yourself in, seizures. They talk about flashing lights causing epilepsy. There are, psychologically, I say keep an open but grounded mindset. Yes, because, going back to that, Taylor, it's a good, that's a good point. Not allowing your mind to kind of carry you away into something that it really isn't happening. Really look at everything objectively, and, don't explain it away necessarily, but find logical explanations for it and work your way from there. Because, our number one priority is to attempt to recreate anything that happens to us and find an explanation, and then move on from there. If you can't find any explanations for it, then obviously the next choice is to say it's paranormal. But, that's a very good point. So health-wise, talking about, flashing lights and some of the things that we use as equipment. Seizures could, if you have epilepsy, or if just things like that startle you, you never know what might happen. Heart attack, if you have something truly frightening happen. Heat stroke, if you're in some place that's very hot. Hi, Sandy. Definitely, if you're out there investigating, make sure that you are, drinking lots of fluids if it's hot. I know then you're going to obviously have to try to find a bathroom, and in some locations that's not a possibility, but that's the other thing. Always know where you can go to the bathroom, which is a little different than hazards and safety, but I don't think we want anybody's liver exploding because you can't go to the bathroom. Again, with the air quality, if you have asthma or any type of lung disease, it's very advisable to determine if you can be in some of these locations. There's a lot of dust, there's a lot of mold, there's a lot of asbestos out there in these abandoned buildings, so just be careful where you're going if you have any type of issues. In some cases, people have sleep deprivation. Just remember that when you don't get enough sleep and you start to get tired, it's probably a good time to call it quits. You can have hallucinations, you don't really have that sharp mind anymore to really look at things objectively. So, and you become complacent, kind of. If you get sleepy and you kind of just sit back and you relax, and you let your guard down, who knows what possibly could happen. So, make sure that you've gotten enough sleep. Take a nap before you go out investigating, especially if you're going to be up all night. Yes, I know you don't have to investigate at night. I'm aware of that. I will take a little off topic a little bit. We investigate at night because honestly, it's the only time that we can. Our investigators work. You know, everybody has a full-time job. I don't, but you know, I feel like this is my full-time job. You really have to choose when you can do these things. This is why we don't really do too many private residences. I like to do it at night as well because you have a heightened sense. If you're going to see light anomalies, you're going to be able to see them better in the dark. Your hearing gets a little bit sharper. Your sense of smell. You know, they say that people who have blindness definitely have a sharpened other senses. So I would agree that that probably happens. And over time, it probably helps sharpen them even more. So moving back towards the sleep deprivation, make sure you get some rest. I wouldn't advise, you know, a lot of coffee and stuff because then your heart's racing and you know, having a lot of caffeine in your system isn't the greatest idea either. Hypothermia, getting really cold when you're out there investigating. Make sure you wear lots of layers. Some of these places don't have heat and they're really cold. You know, back to the air quality, breathing issues. Some of these places, there's a lot of walking involved. If there's no electricity, you might not have an elevator. You know, you could be going up 5 stories or more, walking thousands of square feet. I know Trans-Allegheny was one of the ones where you definitely could tell people would become very winded. So if a lot of that exercise like that impacts you, just know that it could really affect your breathing. And then going back to the EMF sensitivity, some people really do kind of feel sick. I feel nauseous when it's too high. I've gotten a headache. We have an EM pump that I can show you in a minute, that plugs into an outlet. And whenever this thing turns on, I get the coppery taste in my mouth and I get an immediate headache. So, you know, those are things health-wise to be concerned about. And we also don't know if high EMF causes cancer. You know, it could be a conspiracy theory. I mean, I don't really know. If there's any studies out there that anybody has seen, feel free to share a link. That would be great. That's kind of why we stopped using EM pumps because, you know, it's not fair to our investigators if they do believe that it could possibly do that to have something like that going on. All right. So moving on to more of a, if anybody has any, going back to that, anybody has any other health concerns that you would say could possibly be impacted by paranormal investigation or ghost hunting, feel free to post that or discuss. So spiritually, I'd say one of the biggest things that could happen is, I also get that from EMF, starting to feel pretty weird in my head. It's hard to explain. Yeah, I feel nauseous, me. And mine's more of like a buzzing headache. It's right here in the temples. Spiritually, belief change. I know some people say they've even gotten, after experiencing things that are paranormal, they've gotten more into their religion. I've seen a lot of people that have been paranormal investigators that have quit the paranormal and have, you know, they have pursued a more religious background than they did prior to. For me, I believe it's definitely increased my belief in certain religions, but I think that if somebody experiences something, it could really change how they view things spiritually. One of the things that you could experience, it's more of an outside thing, not something inside, but it could affect you if you are concerned about what other people think. There's a lot of persecution for people who do paranormal investigation and ghost hunting. I'm pretty certain that some of my kids' friends, their parents aren't really excited about their kids being friends with people who do paranormal investigation. You know, we're not devil worshippers, so I'm not understanding, you know, what what we're doing that's so bad. You know, we're good people. We don't light people on fire at a stake or anything. We're not witches either. So I don't know why it is that people have a hard time accepting people that do paranormal investigation. It can also, you know, some people just stop talking to you, or, you know, they don't understand and they don't accept you. Spiritually, additionally, you could develop abilities. Now, in a lot of cases, if you don't know you have some sort of psychic ability, I would say that you would have to have an extreme event in your life to be able to realize that you have some sort of ability. But I've told a lot of people, when you're part of the paranormal and you're experiencing things when you're out there investigating, over time you really developed a good intuitive sense. And when you walk into a room in a location, sometimes you can say, this room really does have something in it. You know, this is where we need to set up. And in a lot of cases, you know, maybe 8 out of 10 cases, you probably are going to actually have some sort of activity because you felt some sort of energy in there that could be a spirit. Definitely realize that the possibility of once you see it, you can't stop seeing it. And that kind of goes back to the psychological aspect. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you've seen it, you're probably going to see it again. So just remember that. And that's also, you know, one of the things that Sharon, our psychic medium, and I talk about a lot is having cords. Energy cords with other people, energy cords with these spirits that you talk to. So they have an attachment to you. Remember that when you're out investigating, say if you all of a sudden start getting, you know, pain in your shoulders, your neck, and your back, just remember that that could possibly be some sort of spirit attachment. You have to make sure that you get some sort of cleansing immediately. We have sage spray. Sharon does a really great job with some of her crystals in removing those attachments. But there's great YouTube videos for that as well, just to brush up on learning how to A, shield yourself from spirit attachment, but B, removing it once it has happened. So not just attachment. I mean, these things can attach to you. You can also get a hitchhiker. It doesn't necessarily mean it's attached to you, but it could mean that, hey John, it could mean that the spirit will be able to follow you. It knows where you are. So if you have some sort of cord, and they can find you, they may not be attached like, you know, the other ones are, but these things could actually find out where you live. They're not attached to wherever they're at. They will follow you home. It doesn't happen that often, so all these people saying, oh, heck no, I don't want to do that, because then I'll have something come home with me. It doesn't always happen. And yes, you can. There are lots of great meditations and things that you can actually remove cords, and you know, you can have these cords with people. So say if you have somebody in your life that's so negative, every time you're around them, they are the most negative people. And after you leave them, you feel negative for days. It's because you probably have some sort of cord attachment with them. Your energy is attached to them in some way. So there are ways for you to meditate and to remove those cords. But if not, there are spiritual healers out there like Sharon who can help you with that. It depends on how you are. If you are an atheist, I mean, atheists, I don't really know what all of the guidelines are there for that. I would say if you believe in spirits, then you would have to believe that they have an ability to attach to you in some way. But I mean, I'm not sure. It's really all, what do they say, like psychosomatic, you know, it's all just visualizing things, and it's all in your mind really with some of these things. So if it does have an actual attachment, using visualization and using your mind to sever these cords it's about that. And it really does, I'll be honest, it does work. I never believed in any of that stuff before I started having strange occurrences, and 100% I do believe it now. I've always had a very analytical, logical mind, you know, this, that. No, I didn't think there were, you know, invisible cords between me and other people and things, but I will definitely say I do believe they do now. Just so you know, that's Buttons over there. He's our little mascot for tonight. So just be aware, there are lots of pieces of information out there for people who are interested in learning about all of these things. There are meditations for cleansings. There are meditations for removing attachments and cutting cords. There are meditations for releasing negative energy. There's meditations for improving your financial situation. Now, I don't know if that will help, but yeah, they say law of attraction, you know, whatever you put out is what you get back. So who knows? Try it out. Let me know how it works. You know, I would say try meditation out. It's not for everybody. And yes, it's very hard to calm your mind, and it's really not even about calming. It's about processing each thought you have in your mind and kind of setting it to the side and focusing on yourself and centering yourself and kind of relieving all that chaos a little bit. It's not about burying, it's about working through it. I would say the best thing that I've ever done for cleansing was to sit in a bathtub of very warm water with a cup of Epsom salts, half a cup of baking soda, sit there until the water cools, and then go out into the sun for like 15 minutes. It works really well. My friend Copperhead that, you know, APS is good friends with, recommended it, and I use that. Whenever I feel like negative energy or I just feel a little chaotic, I do that. And I listen to either like, you know, earthy sounds, rain, thunderstorm, birds chirping, a stream in the woods, anything like that. There's even guided meditations that will help you visualize all that stuff. So spiritually, there are lots of ways that you can help yourself. Just remember that for future reference. And grounding. Take your shoes off and go walk outside in the grass. If you're near the beach, that's where I recommend. We also here in my area in Western Maryland, we have this great place up in the mountains that we go to frequently, and we just take our shoes off and stand in the stream. So it's a great way to just relieve all of that craziness. Is it true that you shouldn't drink or smoke the natural herb before you investigate? I don't know, Bobby Sue. I don't know. You'll have to find out whatever informant gave you that information. You have any documentation, you'll have to share that. I don't know. With us, we don't allow any type of drugs or alcohol, so obviously we haven't tried it. I would probably not be happy if my members tried it, so no, we don't know. Anybody have any other spiritual hazards or safety concerns? Feel free to post, comment, discuss them. We did have an instance recently. We did a location. I'm not going to divulge. You can become possessed. Oh, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. Well, and you know, it depends if that person is, you know, I really feel like this is probably me. I don't know if this is me getting, you know, a little, it's kind of a topic that's a little sensitive. Anybody who does drugs in general, could possibly have more hallucinations. There's Sharon. Could have more, paranoia. So I really feel like, is it the drug talking or is it really happening? Hi, Sandra. I don't necessarily agree that it's the drug going that way, I feel like it's just the drug affecting you. So it's not like the drug causes possession, it's the drug causing you to think you're possessed. But hey, if anybody has anything to prove me wrong, go for it. I'm not telling anybody to go out there and get high and do like research. No. I don't recommend that. And I really wouldn't try it now. I'm on a diet. I don't I don't want the munchies later. But like I was saying, we had an episode recently where a couple of our investigators started getting really bad pains in their back. So I'm going back to having attachments. And now that Sharon's on here, she'll probably, she'll pipe in there. More susceptible when you are under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Well, yeah, I mean, you just like, you lose your ability to shield. You kind of just, you know, you lose all inhibition. So you just kind of do whatever. You do whatever. And you could allow whatever to come in and influence you. But I don't necessarily say, like, you probably don't become possessed. You just think you're possessed. And, you know, your mind runs away. How can you be objective when you're high as a kite? That's what I want to know. Kind of like, you know, some people when they drink, they get really mean. So, you know, you can't really be objective when you just hate everybody when you're drunk. Or, you know, if you say you're a happy drunk and you get drunk and you investigate, well, you love everybody. So it's not a good idea to do any of that when you investigate. I don't recommend it. I just don't. All right. Anyways, as a researcher, we also lose authenticity in a way if you're drunk or something. Exactly. I agree. I feel like you have to, I don't know. I just feel that you need to be, you know, going back over some of the things, you know, you show up sober, you show up well rested, hydrated, good footwear, good clothes, don't look like a slob, be neat, presentable, professional looking. You know, if you're representing your organization, you know, you've got to, there's certain standards that you really follow. And, you know, going back in some of my videos, one of the first ones I did was talking about standards and responsibilities. You know, there are certain things that really every investigator should do. And, you know, I've been on ghost hunts at places that have had drunk people, and it was not pleasant at all. Not at all. Bobby Suze knows what I'm talking about. Anyways, moving on to things like games, safeties and hazards, games. You know, this is more save the booze for after the spirits. Exactly. Hello, ghost stories. Definitely be sober when you investigate. Games and other things. Someone asked recently about children and teenagers doing paranormal investigation. Now, our group, currently, we don't take anybody under the age of 21, and that's personal preference. We have had younger people in the group. And, you know, it doesn't always work out because they have, a different set of goals. So, really, I wouldn't even say that 21-year-olds have their crap together. So it's not always that they're most mature. It's just, for us, 21 is usually the best age. I would say that, moving on from that, though, if you have younger kids in the group, you know, have a set of protocols specifically for them. But we can't say that these, you know, children, no Ouija boards, even if you do not believe. I also have instilled the 21 rule on my own team. Great point. My daughter is 11 right now. She would love to be a paranormal investigator. Some of it really kind of scares her, so I don't think mature-wise she's ready for it anyways. But I teach her as much as I can about the paranormal to get her ready. When she's 16, as long as she's mature enough, yes, I will let her go on an investigation. She has been on a couple things for a very short period of time, enough to know that I think she'd be great at it. But I think teaching the younger generation about how to approach this is a really good idea. So don't necessarily say, well, we have to let them investigate. No, you can actually teach them. Teach them the things that they should know so they have healthy practices. You don't want them going out there like some of these young kids, about talking earlier, being on train tracks and investigating and getting injured, or going to locations that, you know they can get into easily and actually, how does everybody else hear me? Sharon says she lost sound. Can you guys hear me right now? I'll wait for a second. Can anybody hear me? Yes, no, thumbs up. Angry face, yes. I'm hoping everything's good. Okay, everybody hears me. Okay. Good. Awesome. All right. So anyways, healthy practices with kids. So definitely teach them. So if you have a team and you have the opportunity, hi Bridget, if you have the opportunity to really get kids involved in some things, just have like a paranormal investigation 101, or, even if it's a ghost hunt, and have, let me move it a little closer to me. Have a ghost hunt and just be very short, abbreviated kind of ghost hunt where you can control pretty much everything so that kids aren't, they don't get freaked out. There's no issues with anything like that. But teach them. I don't think it's right for us to just get rid of that whole generation and say, no, they're not ready for it yet. I really think we need to teach them from the ground up about how to be healthy about it and how to ask permission, how to investigate, terminology, things that you should know. And, it's not all about the thrill. So they're not growing up to be, that person that says, well, I've been investigating for 15 years. They started when they were like 10, and, they know everything, but they've never actually really learned anything but what they've gone out and experienced in, some random place. So I think teaching kids is a great idea. Going into that, kids like to use the Ouija boards or play these really weird games. Who knows if the whole Mary Mary thing is real or not? I don't know. To me, like doing anything repeatedly could possibly create some sort of spirit activity. So, especially if they have abilities. Sharon will advocate that anybody that has abilities, kids or adults, should learn how to control them and use them wisely. So I really feel like for safety, teach kids too how to investigate. You guys feel free to comment on that and let me know what you guys think. I know there's right now the SOS Paranormal Teen Camp, I think is what it's called. They're doing a bunch of sessions with paranormal investigators that are very well seasoned, teaching them locations, how to ghost hunt, things like that. So that's pretty cool. I really think that's a great idea. Now, not everybody can do that. It's not in everybody's cards to do that, but it's a really good idea. But yes, Taylor said something about Ouija boards. Maybe it's all made up. Maybe it's real. I don't know. I've never used a Ouija board, nor will I. I don't feel like anybody should use it that doesn't really consciously think about it first. Think about what you have to do to use the board. So that's kind of the spiritual protection, you know, making sure that when you open it and close it, that you're doing it the right way, and that you're not bringing things in and letting them run havoc in your life. You know that you get involved with a spirit that is negative, and it could affect your whole life. There's lots of paranormal investigators that'll tell you that. I've even seen people talk about how just being involved with the paranormal has destroyed their life. I think that's more of the obsession factor. So, you know, you got to step back every once in a while and just kind of take a deep breath and not get too obsessed with the whole paranormal thing. I try to combat that with just doing real good analysis of our investigations, and not necessarily focusing on the investigation itself, but just gathering all the information together, kind of like more of, you know, piecing a puzzle together. So it's not just about being out there and experiencing something paranormal. It's about really looking at everything and making some sort of conclusion. So definitely be careful of all that. Be careful of using a Ouija board. Be careful of using dowsing rods or pendulum. How did I get involved? Okay. Let's see, in 2008, I will say it probably started back before that. Me, my husband, Jeremy, and his best friend, Ryan, we hung out all the time. We were together on weekends, you know, we ate dinner together, our kids hung out together, so we were always hanging out. And one of our biggest topics of conversation were things that we had happen to us. I had a lot of stuff happen to me in a house that I lived in many years ago. My son was about a year old, and one of the times, now I know I've talked about this, so if anybody has heard this before, I'm sorry. One of the first things that I experienced, my husband and our roommate were unloading a salt boat in Baltimore. So I was home by myself with my son. I had just put him down to sleep, and I was sitting on the couch reading a book. And out of nowhere, this really enormous sound came from the attic. And it sounded like somebody moving furniture across the floor in the attic. Now, there wasn't enough room in this attic for anything that was big enough to make this sound. So I immediately called my husband and was like, oh my God, I just heard this crazy sound upstairs. Now, really weird for me, because at this point I was scared of my own shadow. So back then, I could never have been a paranormal investigator. I was scared of everything. But what was weird about the situation was I was not scared of this. I felt calm, almost like something calmed me down. And so I called him and was like, I just heard what sounded like something moving furniture in the attic. And he's like, oh, well, maybe it was a mouse. And I, to this day, still say that was a big damn mouse. So that was the first thing that happened. Another night, it was right at that time of year where you're not quite ready to turn on the heat in a house. I want to say we had heating oil back then, so we may not even had heating oil at this point. It was right when it started to get cool, so we had a space heater that I put in my son's room. And again, he was one. He was in a crib, so he couldn't get out. I put him in bed, and I turned the heat on because it was really chilly in his room. I turned the heat on high just to really warm it up, and I shut the door. So I told myself, before you fall asleep, make sure you go back and you turn the heat down. Well, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I know we went to bed probably after midnight. It was probably 1, 2 in the morning. I went in there, and, well, as I get to the door is open about 6 inches. Now, I had shut that door before I went to bed, and I had turned, like I said, the heat up to high. Not only was the door open, but the heat was off. The heater was completely off. And all the windows, now his door was a French door style door, and all the windows in it were covered in moisture. I was so freaked out. He was not cold, but he wasn't, warm. So I immediately yelled at my husband, why did you turn it all the way off? You should have left the heater on. And he said, I haven't even woken up yet. You just woke me up. I've been asleep all night. So I run downstairs, double check. I was like, well, maybe the breaker went off. No, the breaker was fine. I asked our roommate, I'm like, have you been upstairs? He said no, and I wouldn't have gone in his room anyways. So for some reason, something opened that door and turned his heater off. It was the most bizarre thing, I think. Even now, it kind of gives me little goosebumps. So that's a story that we talked about a lot. The third thing that happened in that house was I was washing my dishes at the kitchen sink, and it was one of the kitchens that had a table in it. And I went to kind of grab a dish to put in the sink, and out of the corner of my eye, there was a very old man sitting at the table, and the chair was turned, so he kind of was leaning on the table a little bit and catty corner from the table looking at me. He was wearing, I think he was wearing suspenders and a button-down shirt, and I want to say jeans. He just smiled at me, and when I went to turn fully around, he was gone. All those things, after having them happen to me, was, you know, wow. You know, obviously stuff happens. I'd always been interested in haunted houses, ghosts, things like that. But I'd say the real situation when Ghost Hunters came on TV, yes, I will admit it. When Ghost Hunters came on TV, I didn't realize that you could actually go out there and attempt to capture it, you know, in such a way. So it made the three of us decide that we wanted to go out there and try it on our own. Now, initially, it was just supposed to be me, Jeremy, and Ryan. And we did that for a little while. But then it kind of got, like, it exploded in 2009, and we started taking members. So that's pretty much how it started and how it happened. I still remember April 4th, 2008, the boys sitting down and deciding on a paranormal group name, and they purchased the website domain that day. It was, you know, they kept asking me a bunch of questions, so eventually I became kind of like the mouthpiece for APS. So that is how I got involved. When we first started, I read everything that I possibly could because I had approached a well-seasoned group that was around the area, and they were in the newspapers, they were on the radio, and I approached them and just said, hey, you know, I'd love to meet up with you guys just to kind of talk about, you know, how you approach this, how you run your group. And they completely the guy was a jerk. He said, we don't do that. So I had to learn on my own. I learned everything on my own. 2009, I started the Facebook page, and I've just done this all by myself, basically. I learned from the greats, the people that investigated way back when. So, yep, that's how I got involved. Anybody have any other questions? Well, for me, it was Ghost Adventures. I don't think there's any shame in having the shows as an influence as long as you still conduct your research your own way. I do. You know, it's really hard when people say, well, how do you do an investigation? You know, the easy way is to say, well, have you ever watched Ghost Hunters? You know, it's the easy way to say, you know, it's like that, but we have our own way. You know, it's similar. I mean, we know that obviously they don't go and sit down for one night and investigate. They've got to do it multiple times, but kind of, sort of, that's how we do it. But yeah, it was an influencer, but really after a couple years, I realized that, you know, the TV shows are about entertainment. While they really push people to be inspired, I really don't feel that there is, in the end, any inspiration from being on TV. I really think the inspiration is people who do the research, and, you know, you can really pick their brain about stuff. Like Kenny Biddle, for example, you know, you ask him questions and he's going to give you the logical answer. And, you know, it's great to have that. And it's also great to have the flip side, you know, somebody that's willing to indulge, yes, the idea that something is paranormal, but it's great to also have the side where this is the logical explanation that I have for you. So having both of those helps you really understand a situation. Anybody have any other questions? We have about 9 minutes. 9 minutes. And you know, You know, I don't know much about Johnny Zaffis. I'm just seeing, you know, I just see where people post about his events and his TV shows and things like that he's done. But I've never actually had any conversations with him or anything. So I'm not sure if he's on the same, you know, the same page as me or not. You know, there's lots of people out there that I don't know that are in the paranormal field that have, you know, great approaches to research. So everybody has their own. You know, to me, I would have loved to meet people that are no longer with us. People like Camille Flammarion. He was a astrologer, but he wrote a lot of articles, and he has a whole book about him investigating essentially people's experiences with the paranormal. And he really went around and really got like the meat and potatoes of people's stories. And he went and kind of, you know, did investigations, you know, as much as you could in the 1920s, basically, to understand what could possibly happen. And it's great to see, you know, he would send all his findings to other people. And then at the end of it, he would have their, you know, viewpoint on what was happening. So I love seeing that. And I think people these days put too much into, well, the equipment didn't say so. I really feel like most of the equipment that we use isn't really for the purpose of paranormal investigation. Even though it's made for that purpose, how do we really know that what we're receiving is paranormal or not? We don't. So, you know, you can use it, but to me, having more than just my equipment did this, you have experiences, you have audio, and your equipment does something. You need to have more than just one thing to back it up to really say, this is paranormal. Oh, how did we decide on our team name? Okay, so Antietam is actually the name of a battlefield here, Civil War battlefield. It was the bloodiest day of battle, period, during the Civil War. And I would not necessarily say that we chose it because of that. I mean, we chose it because a lot of places in this area call, you know, their places Antietam, but the Antietam, the creek, and its little, you know, estuaries are everywhere around here. And we kind of wanted to focus locally. So it was more of an area decision for us, but it also was a bonus that people knew what Antietam was. Not everybody does, though. So unless you know your Civil War history, not everybody does. We've even gotten persecuted for it. You should have been called Sharpsburg. Well, we aren't in Sharpsburg, but the Antietam is right down the street. So, you know, Antietam Creek is right down the street. It's not like all the way out in Sharpsburg, which is about 20 minutes away. So, that's kind of why we named it Antietam. And they, you know, the boys had decided they had a bunch of different names, but, you know, when Antietam hit, I said, that's a good one, you know, because if you're focusing on the area, then the Antietam's all over the place here. It's a good idea. But it stuck, and, you know, everybody knows this as Antietam anymore. I like to call it APS. We're not apes or apps. We're APS. And no, Paul Sipper, who probably hasn't seen this, we are not TAPS, the Antietam Paranormal Society, which he likes to call us. We are just the APS crew, or Antietam Paranormal Society, which I don't always introduce myself, which I should. I'm Rebecca Boyer, and I am the co-founder and case manager of Antietam Paranormal Society. I'm the one that you will talk to in most cases if you contact us. I have lots. We have, gosh, how many members do we have right now? 11. We have 11 members. And everybody has their own little thing that they do with our group. And we are searching for more members, so anybody wants to apply, we are searching for a tech manager. Anybody have any more questions? We have 4 minutes. I'd say if you have any ideas for topics, private message them to me. Again, I'd said this before, for some reason, I don't always see the comments once this is posted, so private message me if you have any topic ideas. All the places that you've investigated, what is your favorite place? Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Yes, I missed that building for, let's see, 2010 until 2017, so 7 years. Jeremy and I, we volunteered as guides and whatever they needed over there, and we loved it. We loved the folks over there. So we enjoyed our time there. We had so many experiences. We learned how to be ghost hunt guides over there. Have great friends from being there. Met so many people. We did, one of our first events that we helped with was a celebrity event. So we were lucky enough to meet people like Chris Fleming and, well, she was Cece the Huntress back then, and Steve and Tango from Ghost Hunters, and KJ McCormick. I think that was it. But yeah, so we met all of them, and we helped out with the asylum ball, which was a blast. Could period correct clothing affect anything from attaching to you? I don't know. That's a good question, Eric. I would say, you know, I mean, this is not definitive. This is my opinion. I would feel like if you look like something that they're familiar with, there's more of a chance that they could possibly want to follow you home, because maybe they're interested in who you are. But I feel like a lot of spirits are more energy driven. Like if they like your energy, that's why they'll follow you. But I don't know. I mean, you know, Sharon says all the time that people have past lives. So maybe you did have a past life and maybe you really connect to that spirit. I don't necessarily know it's the clothing, but it could be. It very well could be. I know that really doesn't help you any, but I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility that having clothing that associates them with their time couldn't make them want to follow you. There goes buttons. But we've got 2 minutes, guys. If you have any other questions, feel free to post. I dressed as a Southern surgeon in a Northern Field hospital and felt like I wasn't wanted there. Yeah, that happens. I mean, if you slipped yourself into that, you know, that time frame, you probably really, you could have connected with them a lot better than if you were just in regular clothing and, you know, wasn't associating yourself with that time frame. Oh, the item I was going to show. Give me a second. Okay, we were talking about EM pumps. This is an EM pump. Our former founder, Ryan, created this. He's an electrician. And you see it's got a burst thingy and a little knob on there. Yeah, this thing really pumps out EMF. It's crazy. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So that was what I was going to show you, an EM pump that you plug into the wall. Well, final story. We plugged that in at the Masonic Temple here in Hagerstown, which is no longer able to be investigated, but we put it in the basement, which wasn't the bottom floor. They had a sub-basement, basement, first, second, third floor, and we put it on the basement level. And I would say we started at maybe like 6 p.m. So around midnight, 1 a.m. I want to say it was, people started figuring out that we had a cloud from the second to the third floor, a cloud of EMF about 3 feet off the ground, up the stairs and on the third floor. It was so interesting. While I don't like it, it was really cool to have a situation where all these people were there ghost hunting that, you know, weren't part of our team, and they experienced how a piece of equipment like that could affect the location. I don't think it really pushed the activity at all. It didn't really increase it or decrease it. Kind of just stayed the same. But it definitely created this really cool cloud. And, you know, everybody talks about that still that was there that night. So, very interesting. I know it's not something that every EM pump, because I know a lot of them just take batteries. This one pumps out a lot. So, cool. I don't know. It just made me kind of feel sick to my stomach. I was glad I wasn't around it. I think I was down in the basement investigating, and I wasn't really feeling, unless you're like sitting there with it. Now, I don't know why it created the cloud like that. I guess eventually it just burst and drifted up the stairs. I don't know. Anybody have any, you know, anything to say about that? Feel free to comment. But that's about it. It is past 8 o'clock, and about this time I start losing my voice. So I'm going to let you guys go. Again, if you have any topic suggestions, feel free to private message me. I know I had some. Bear with me for a second. I had some ideas. Oh, here it is. I do want people to actually like send me questions or ideas. Taylor had actually asked us a while back about, do you believe bodies of water have any impact on paranormal activity? I think we should do one that is related to possible boosts in paranormal activity, you know, things that could increase it, or reasons why it may be in certain areas. So maybe that'll be next time. I don't know. But again, private message me if you have any ideas, or if you just have questions. I may do one of these that just is answers or discussion about questions that I've received. But share this video, comment, like it, love it even. That'd be great. No angry faces. And I will catch you guys next week. And thanks for watching. It's a great time. I'll talk to you guys. Bye.